What's up?
Hey, not much. How are you?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw my email, but
Mm-hmm.
yes. So I'm thinking we can go over one.
Yep.
We can go over cars.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. What's that? Obviously, you can't improve cars in a week, but I mean, I'm really hoping I can get at least 125.
Uh,
Like,
I think that's already something that's gonna happen, considering that's what you've been getting. Um, but yeah. So,
let's hope.
mhm.
Okay. We'll do two passages.
Okay.
Um, I guess one per hour. Yeah, this first one's about Plato. Philosophy is not my strong suit.
So, what was I gonna say? So you said that you wanted to do it like last time. What? I kind of forgot. So basically, you're saying that you're gonna like read paragraph by paragraph and what telling me about the like after each like paragraph.
Yeah, that's what we did last time, and I think it was a little better because I feel like when like we spend 2 hours on one passage, it's a little too slow. So it's like if we could just do it by paragraph instead of by sentence, I think it would be a little more like digestible and just I don't know, we can get through two passages as well.
Sure. So, um, so you're saying that basically you're gonna read the paragraph after you finish the paragraph, you're gonna tell me about it, or are you?
Sure. Yeah. And like you would like remember you like would write up the map for like after each paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Oh, you're reading it in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll actually read it out loud. That's actually, yeah, it's gonna be better.
It can be.
Plato, I'll do it out loud. I'll do it out loud. Plato taught that the corrupting influence of the arts justified their banishment from his ideal city. His argument hinged on a conviction that the emotions are irrational in the sense that they undermine the rule of reason in the individual. Emotions are irrational. Yeah. Okay. And in consequence in society, his presupposition was that reason and emotion are opposed. In addressing the emotions, Plato concluded drama or works of art address irrational tendencies and thus undermine our ability to control ourselves through reason. Um, yeah, so here Plato's saying that emotions and I guess the main takeaway is that like emotions are irrational and then they're kind of like they're opposed to like thoughts, kind of like yin and yang in a way. Um yeah, and also that drama slash works of art, because they address like emotion, it doesn't let us control ourselves in a way, like with thought.
Okay. So if you were to like put it together in like let's say three, four words.
Plato dash emotion and thought opposite.
So there's one thing I would add.
Probably about drama and art.
Yeah, right. So like I know you don't want to do it sentence by sentence, but just really quickly, like this is how I would read it. So Plato taught that the corrupting influence of the arts justified their banishment from his ideal city. So right away, the new idea here is that Plato is not, it doesn't really, Plato thinks art is bad.
Hmm.
Okay. Then they said that his argument, the argument that art is bad, hinges on the premise that emotions are irrational and that arts address the irrational, and that means that you could have emotional things that are irrational that are different from things that are reasonable, and that's why Plato is not into the arts. So I think you mostly got it. I would just have introduced the arts aspect. So I'll quickly write something. So like Plato against arts because irrational, unlike reason, and I'll say like irrational in parentheses, emotional. Um, oh, yeah. So against the arts because of irrational, unlike reason. So pretty much what you said, just I'm putting the art part in there. But good.
Contemporary psychology and analytic philosophy reject Plato's presupposition. Okay. This prevalent view is that reason is an ineradicable constituent of the emotions. Kill that word, but in order to be certain that emotion is not an irrational force, we need a clear conception of its nature. One plausible definition is that, hold on, but in order to be certain that emotion is not an irrational force, we need a clear conception of its nature. Okay. One plausible definition is that an emotion is a physiological condition. Hormonal changes occur as one enters an emotional state. The adrenal glands produce corticosteroids. Hormonal changes. Okay. Produce corticosteroids, which in turn induce the multiple changes associated with agitation and readiness for action. When one is angry, one's blood flow increases, and one may feel hot under the collar. One may also sense an altered heart rate, an expansion or contraction of the chest, muscular tension. English speakers implicitly acknowledge such sensations and referring to emotions as feelings. So are they, I guess they're kind of saying that emotion is it's like connected to physiological conditions and I guess thought as well.
So I think it could be useful for you to like kind of think out loud as you read this, because as you're reading sentence by sentence, I'm not sure if like you are kind of like getting what they're saying. Um,
Like not really. I mean, yeah.
no, so here's an example, right? So contemporary psych and analytical philosophy reject Plato's presupposition. So right away, that's our new idea.
Hmm.
And what is Plato's presupposition? It's that emotion and reason are opposed, right?
Yep.
So now we're saying that today we don't believe that to be the case, and that this prevalent view is that reason is ineradicable, meaning you cannot eradicate reason
Hmm.
when we think about emotion.
Hmm.
So so you see how right away we're saying that in paragraph one that Plato thinks like emotions and reason are opposites, but now we're starting to say in P2 that they're not.
Okay.
And we are bolstering that argument by talking about these physiological uh, things that emotions can trigger,
Mhm.
right? So like yeah, so like you could just tell me like as like just read out like sorry, think out loud and kind of tell me like okay, I'm like this is what I think this is saying, etc.
Okay. But in order to be certain that emotion is not a rational force, we need a clear conception of its nature. Um, okay, so yeah, in order to be certain, we need to make sure that we need to find a way like how emotion comes about. Um, one plausible definition is emotion is a physiological condition, so that's how it might occur. Hormonal changes occurs when enters emotional state. Yeah. They're basically talking about how emotion originates.
So I put error to the above wrong. Emotions are connected. I'll say like yeah, via physiological effects. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Emotions are not simply bodily sensations, however. Suppose that okay, another new idea. Um, suppose that the set of physiological changes you experienced last time you're angry is chemically induced. I was like kind of understanding what the pastor was saying, but at this point, it was also the timing that I was like thrown off at this point in the test. And
Okay.
like after this was like a downward spiral.
So does this this is kind of almost halfway, a little bit more than halfway into it. So
Mhm.
does it usually happen around this time?
No, just because I told you because I was like writing, so I like lost some time.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that like it was a philosophy passage and
Yep.
yeah. But anyway, suppose that the set of physiological changes you experienced last time you were angry is chemically induced. You are then left alone in exactly the feeling state you were in at a meeting the previous month after a colleague spoke to you sarcastically. Are you angry? No. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't understand what they were saying here. Like, chemically induced, isn't that like in reference to hormones? Like, I don't understand.
Okay. So in the prior paragraph, we talked about how uh there's physiological effects that are associated with emotions. And now they're saying that emotions are not just those physiological sensations. Okay.
So, okay, so they're talking about external like things as well now, like in terms of the colleague.
Yep. Because they're saying it's like they're saying, okay, emotions could be physiological, but they're not just physiological. And then they're elaborating by basically telling you, hey, if it's just physiological, let's say that we gave you some drug that produced those physiological effects that come along with emotion, would you feel completely like emotional, right?
Mhm.
And what do you think the author is trying to say? Like, would you feel that emotion if you were just given a drug with the physiological effects?
Well, no.
All right, because
Yeah.
his argument here is that they're not just those bodily sensations, right?
Hmm. Okay.
So overall, like what's going in my head so far is P1, Plato hated the arts because he was against emotions because he thought it was mutually exclusive with reason. P2, uh, they are not like Plato was wrong. They are not, different, and they can be connected via physiological effects. And then P3, they're not just physiological effects. That's like the flow in your head, that you want in your head. Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, your colleague's rudeness does not come to mind. The chemicals that induce only symptoms of emotion. What does that last sentence mean?
That so. we want to just make sure that we're everything we're reading that we're connecting it as we read because otherwise it's just going to feel disjointed, right? So connect that to what we said our argument was for this paragraph.
That chemicals aren't only part of, emotion.
Yeah. So then they give us this example of like, let's say that you had the chemicals that gave you those that theoretically could have given you those emotions. Does it mean that you're going to have that same emotion? It doesn't. And the reason is that the chemicals can induce symptoms of emotion, but they're not equated to emotion.
Yeah. This demonstration implies that emotion requires at least two components, measurable physiological events and a belief or thought about some person or situation, real or imagined.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean that's a little more digestible. Like, yeah, uh, there's like the chemical changes, but also the, whatever it is, like the colleague, for example, speaking sarcastically, you need both. But okay. Moreover, there's evidence that even strong emotions possess a sort of rationality. That is, they are governed by thought and they're educable. Um, Anything I pronounce, I attribute that to Russian actually being my first language. Okay, that's my excuse.
Wait, what are you saying?
I don't know how to pronounce this. Educable, ed,
Yeah,
this word.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Um,
You're saying that you pronounce it in Russian or something?
no. My excuse is that
You're
English
Russian.
was no, Russian. Like
Oh,
it was my first language.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, okay. So, okay, here I guess what they're saying is that they're kind of discrediting what Plato was saying. In a, I feel like because they bring up the rationality aspect, so emotions might actually be rational, while Plato talks about emotions being irrational.
Okay.
Um, and emotions are governed by thought. So I mean, yeah, that's literally going like against Plato. Um, oh my God. And then there's this, which like I also when I first read through it, I just like I was so lost at this point. We try to convince a child not to fear an imagined monster underneath the bed by proving that no monster is there. Um, so like I guess what they're referring to is that we're trying to like quote unquote educate the child, like tell the child because the fear is an emotion and like we're saying in terms of situation, there's no monster underneath the bed. So if we prove there's no monster, then it's not going to lead to fear.
Okay. And tell me like the significance of this in the grand scheme.
Well, Plato said emotion and thought are not connected, but here they're giving an example that they are.
Okay. So, we from P2 we were talking about how Plato was wrong by saying that there's physiological effects, and then P3 we're talking about how it's not just the physiological effects, but now in P4 and generally like it's not always going to be the case, but for the most part you would see the first sentence of a new paragraph to be like oftentimes like a new idea. So you want to, because like I think what you're doing when you're kind of like analyzing the paragraph is you're kind of going backwards, like rather than like so for me to or like for instance, like when you were analyzing this, you started off talking about the monster part, but if you looked at the first sentence, you would see that the paragraph is really just saying that emotion requires two components, at least two components, and anytime you have a numerical list, you want to pay attention to that. So one component is the measurable physiological events, and the other component is a belief or thought about some person or some situation, real or imagined. Okay. And then they elaborate on that by saying that they are educable, like you could teach them. And we have an example of, a kid who feels the emotion of fear about some monster under the bed, right? And since part of emotion is a belief or thought about some person or situation, real or imagined, and that it's subject to rationality, if you tell the kid, hey, there's no monster, it's impossible, that can show that that kid can learn this emotion to control the emotion based on the rationality.
Mhm.
So So here I'm really taking away that there's the two components here, and they indicate that there's an underlying rationality beneath all this.
Mhm.
Yep.
Similarly, if an object of anger is found innocent of hostile intentions, then the anger typically evaporates.
Mhm. So that's another example of like rationality, right?
Yeah.
Like if you find that the person is really innocent and not trying to like harm you, then you see that as rational, like in terms of like, oh, so this person isn't there to hurt me. So I don't feel that way. I don't feel angry towards that person anymore.
Mhm.
Okay.
Emotions have criteria of appropriateness that are open to assessment. They are naturally responsive to reason and knowledge. So, okay. I feel like it's kind of same idea.
Uh, for so previous idea was emotion requires two components and that they possess rationality. And then here we're saying that they have criteria of appropriateness that are open to assessment.
Okay. I mean, then it talks about reason and knowledge, which is kind of like thought.
Mhm.
Um, okay, anyway, penetrability of emotional responses by thought means that art does not necessarily undermine reason in addressing the emotions.
Okay.
So that's kind of connecting to what like Plato said.
Yeah. Particularly because we've been addressing Plato's statement that emotion is the opposite of, rationality. Here we're reintroducing the art aspect of it.
Okay. Indeed, because the immediacy of its activation, the reactive component of emotion may serve the reflective component by directing attention to information of importance to us. Um, the reactive component is like anger. I
Okay.
mean it's like yeah, it's emotion. Reflective is like thought.
Mhm.
Um,
And they're kind of connected, right? The reactive component may serve the reflective component.
yeah.
Mhm.
Emotion is a vital part of our biological heritage. This fact does not mean that emotions are impervious to culture. Okay, new idea. It means that the universality of human emotions can be explained by principles of natural selection. Yeah, so talking about completely new idea, just about biology now. We have emotions because like thumbs, an upright posture, and a convoluted cerebral cortex, they contribute to the survival of our species. Okay. Um, so yeah, I mean, just another idea we can add that like emotion is part of natural selection as well. To help us like survive.
Mhm.
Uh, Emotions elicited by art do not subvert human reason. Emotions elicited by art do not subvert human reason. Okay.
What subvert?
Like undermine.
Perfect.
Um, since reason, memory, associative conceptualization, judgment is an inextricable constituent. Um, Indeed, a determining force of such responses. So it's something that's like, yeah, it's like part. Um, Emotions listed by art do not for human reason. Okay, it's basically just saying emotions and reason are connected, as they were saying, and um, that yeah, art actually does not um doesn't undermine reason. Like these are things that are there's a specific word I want to use. I just forgot it, but it's like they're just they're part of it, kind of like you can't really divide, you can't split them.
Mhm.
Like reason, yeah.
Okay.
Um, but okay, very important. Contrast word. Although Plato was mistaken in believing that all representative creations threaten reason, believing that all representative creations threaten reason. Okay, that's referring to art.
Mhm.
Um, some emotion producing representations, those that encourage defective cognitive states. Okay, so art that like actually encourages you to just like not maybe not like not think, but like think less or just like that thinking just like defectively.
Yep.
Um, they are affronts to reason, so they're detrimental to reason. Maybe detrimental is too far of a word, but like too yeah.
You're good.
Um, that is the only danger of art to society. It's not that it excites the passions, but that it may instill false beliefs. So that's actually a that's a new idea.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And yeah, then ends the article, Plato's general argument about art must be rejected. Okay.
Okay. What's your takeaway here?
First of all, the person hates Plato. Like uh emotion and thought connected, and art mostly can lead to um like thoughts.
I wrote art relates emotion to reason, and that um, Plato is wrong. In my head, I'm basically have it internalized that Plato's against or thinks that they're opposites. And that it's only bad if it can lead like to defective thoughts.
Mhm.
So okay. Now when you're reading this, you were kind of telling me sometimes like okay, you felt lost at certain regions and stuff.
Mhm.
So um but like particularly for this paragraph, I'm guessing, or I mean, sorry, for this passage.
Yeah, I would say so. I guess I wasn't connecting the ideas with each other,
Mhm.
and I was just like really rushing through it. Like I wasn't even registering what I was reading, honestly. Because it was like when I got to this passage, I was already like, usually I do 10 minutes per passage. I was probably like technically like already only on 8 minutes for this passage. And I just started reading super fast because I saw it was 7 questions. I was like, oh my God. It's
Mhm.
like it's a Plato passage and it's 7 questions. So
So you wrote emotion based
I was laughing at that.
emotion based on physiology and
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And the way that we wrote it here, does this make sense? The way that the what we wrote?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. All right, let's do the questions.
Okay. Suppose that a child persists in fearing a monster despite assurances by adults that the fear is unreasonable. Which of the following reasons for this fear would undermine the passage author's argument? The fear is instinctual and beyond the child's control. Um, maybe. The child assumes that adults cannot see the monster. Okay, I mean, I would cross this one out. Might be too going a little too far. Child believes that the adults are untrustworthy. Maybe. I mean, it's like cognitive. It's like a thought. The fear is a displaced expression of separate anxiety. Um, would probably cross someone out. Displaced expression of separate anxiety. Okay, I mean, we were saying that emotion and thought are connected. Um, undermine. So I would pick C here.
Let's do that.
Uh,
So this is a weakener question, right?
yeah,
Now, what you can do for weakener questions is you can take your argument and flip it and see what agrees with that. All right.
yeah.
So what's our argument?
Like art, I mean, emotion and thoughts are connected.
So now flip it.
They're not connected.
Okay. And now you have something to look for.
Hmm. Okay, so I guess it's A.
Yep. So yeah, so a lot of times like this, like if you can think about your own answer, it leaves you more less susceptible to the wrong answers and leads you to the right answer because you know what you're looking for. So I think that's an important theme here.
Yeah. Passage. Author's assertions imply that concern about undesirable social effects would be justified by. Tragic play that induces grief and horror.
Let's try this.
So it's something about defective thoughts, probably.
Good.
Um, Novel that promotes belief in vampires. Okay, so for now, I probably cross out A. Political play that incites anger at authorities. Yeah, I would pick B because that's defective thought.
Got it. So now, when you were doing this the first time, were you like choosing, like, I'm guessing you were choosing like different things?
This was flagged, and I literally went back to this with like 3 minutes left in the whole section.
Yeah.
I did not know where they even spoke about social effects when I first read this. I was lost, like literally lost.
Yeah, yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So didn't know what they were talking about.
So,
But I would think it's B, right? Because defective thoughts.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Right. And this is another question that, and I know you don't want to like write the main idea and stuff, but for the last question and this question, we really just looked at our main idea, right?
hmm I think a good middle ground could be to just like, as you were saying, like just step back for 10 seconds and actually think about it.
Yeah. I mean,
Like instead of writing it fully, while also instead of going straight to the questions, like just taking 10 seconds to think.
yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying, because like same thing with when you read like the question stem, like a lot of people don't give themselves the opportunity to think about what it's actually asking and go right to the questions and choose something for whatever reason.
That's
Uh,
me.
So yeah, you want to, like, I know that, it's the time crunch and everything like that. But if it's like, if you're like halfway into the passage and you're not really understanding anything, like, either, you slow down or you to understand it or you don't, but
Like
that'll,
what do you do in that situation? Like what do you recommend? Like start rereading from the top again? Like what do you do?
oh, sorry, in which situations?
Like what would I do? Like let's say I'm halfway through the passage, not like literally nothing is clicking. They're using like 1100 BC vernacular. Like what, do I just go back up and reread it?
So let's do it so that we read it right the first time. So you're gonna spend time like usually, again, not always the cases, but usually, so if you scroll up, I'll kind of show you like what I mean. So starting off with this thing about Plato, what's he trying to say? He says that art is bad and reason and emotion are opposed. And then right after, we're talking about how Plato's wrong, which means that reason and emotion are not opposed, and that's kind of like elaborated on for the rest of the passage, until the very end where he argues that, hey, sometimes, so because he's been arguing so far that there is a connection between reason and emotion, um, and that Plato's wrong, but Plato could be right in some regard or some respect, aka if the drama or the play or whatever perpetuates a wrong, belief.
Okay.
So yeah, I would after each like paragraph, like the only thing that I just noticed was that you kind of go backwards when you read when you try to process the paragraph, but I would just go
Okay.
right order because usually you're gonna have the first sentence be, the new idea.
Okay.
But yeah, from this you just want to take away that Plato says they're opposites, but they're not opposites, they're connected, and it's only bad if it promotes wrong beliefs.
Suppose that psychological studies show that novels arouse emotion only if readers consider the characters in situations described realistic. What is the relevance of this finding for the passage author's conclusions?
So what is this asking?
Does it agree with the main idea?
What
Like, does it agree with the fact that emotion and thoughts are connected?
mm, so like the question stem, right? What is that saying?
Like that emotion, like thinking about something leads to emotion. That's realistic. Like thinking about something realistic.
Okay, you're getting there.
But like this thinking about something realistic lead to emotion.
So it's saying that suppose that some studies show that reading some piece of art, like a novel, right, can elicit emotions only if the characters and situations in that novel are realistic. So you want to definitely make sure you like understand what it's asking. Because you were saying like something about reason versus emotion or something about the main idea or something like that, but you want to just make sure you understand it, right? Because it says,
What'd you say it was again?
what's up?
What is it asking?
Oh, so they're saying that suppose that we found out that people, I guess, feel emotion from art if they believe that like what situation that character is in the novel, let's say, is realistic,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So you
Okay.
again, I know that you're on the time, but you want to, in order to answer a question, you must understand that what that question's asking, right? And so,
Yeah.
and it's just as simple as like, reading it, right? Because I think I was asking you and you're kind of telling me all these things, but if you just read it, then you see this part, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, how would this be relevant, I guess, to the author's conclusions?
I mean, it's like referring to when you have that colleague that was like sarcastic.
Okay.
Yeah. That connected the fact that, you know, you had the chemically induced stuff, but you needed that sarcasm from the colleague to really set you off.
Uh-huh. So yeah, that could be part of it. But I guess I would just think about what realistic could be like related to in the context of, you know, the main idea. But yeah, I'll let you take a look.
It affirms them by implying an irrationality that serves human survival. Uh, affirms them by implying an irrationality that serves. I don't know about the word irrationality, but I'll keep it, I guess. It affirms them by implying a reasoned engagement with the narrative. God, reasoned engagement with the narrative. See, if I had some by implying logically unjustified emotional response. So, okay. Um, I feel like this, first of all, like in terms of the first half, it affirms something.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I don't think violates would help. So like it violates some by implying logically unjustified emotional response. It violates some by implying that this form of art opposes reason. Like I would cross out C and D because I think it connects to the main idea.
Yeah.
Now, implying an irrationality that serves human survival. I'm like very cautious about rationality. I mean, I remember Plato was talking about irrational and that's emotion, but
So what's the key word in the question stem?
realistic.
Okay.
So human survival might be realistic,
Um,
but like I don't know if that's what you're referring to. But there's also yeah.
so if they're saying that people, so far in the passage we've been saying that art can make people feel emotions, and that these emotions are rational.
Mhm.
So, and now in the question stem, we're saying, suppose it's true that this happens only when the situations are realistic.
Mhm.
So maybe that means realistic is more rational,
Mhm.
and therefore emotions that people feel when the situation is more realistic can strengthen the argument that there's going to be a connection between the emotion and the reason or rationale.
So yeah, rationality makes us wrong.
That says what though for A?
That what's happening here is irrational.
But you're saying for choice A?
Like I'm saying it would be wrong.
Okay, you're saying A is wrong. You're saying
Yeah,
okay. Yep, yep, yep.
but like what narrative? Is that that's the novel, I guess you're talking about?
Yeah. So, let's make sure that you see what it's asking. It's saying, let's suppose that we find new evidence that like novels elicit emotion only if the situation is realistic, right? And so we want to see how that fits in with the author's argument. The author's argument says that there could be a rational basis for emotion, and this should support that because it says that people feel that emotion when it's realistic. So there's a rational basis for that emotion. Right?
Okay, assume a study is performed in which only the physiological aspects of emotion are chemically suppressed and that the participant are then placed. Um, okay, it's not letting me highlight. They're placed in a situation that would normally anger them. The passage author would presumably expect the participants to experience. Okay, I mean, we're told that like uh you need the chemicals, but you also need like the outer situation to feel emotion.
Yeah.
Um, no chemicals would probably mean the there would just be like no emotion.
Okay.
You need both. So this can leave indifference and attention to the situation. I would leave that. And abnormally normal response to situation. I'll leave that. And then A, abnormally intense disapproval. That's like only if you have, you gotta have at least those chemicals. And like,
So there's two aspects.
there's two aspects, yeah.
Okay.
Like you need hormones, which are like chemicals,
Okay.
and then you need like someone, like you need something. You need an object of anger, as as the author describes them. But yes, like
So, okay. So you need both then, right?
yes.
So
So I would lean C and I would pick C.
now, like, um, you still have that object of anger, right? In the because the question stem is saying what?
Yeah, you still have the person, like let's say that is sarcastic too. Like that, yeah. Um, but I just thought it was all or nothing. I got this wrong. Like I thought it was all or nothing because
Well,
yeah.
it's two things, right? As you said, there's the physio and the like mental, I guess, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, if you had the physio and the mental, you have both. If you have one, you would have one of them and not the other thing. So, for instance, if you had like the physio aspect where you, I don't know, drink a bunch of coffee or something like that, and mental is not there, it's like you're going to just kind of like feel some type of intense emotion without there being a rationale for it. But in the question stem here, they're saying, okay, we're going to suppress the physio aspect, but we're still going to put you in a situation that's going to anger you, like mentally, right? So we should have some element not there and some element there. And you can see in these choices, right? We can have intense and disapproval, right? Intense could be related to the physio aspect, right? And disapproval is the mental or rational aspect. So if you had the physiological aspects of emotion present and you place the person in a situation that would normally anger them, they'll have the physiological produce the intense feeling and the disapproval, which is them being angry, right? Like rationally. So this would mean we would need the chemicals to not be suppressed, but same situation, right? B says normal response to the situation, which would mean that, either, oh, well, they're not going to have a physiological effect and they're not going to have a mental effect. But that shouldn't be true because it should still like anger them. Like the situation should still anger them. So that's out. And then indifference and inattention again is going to be like if you don't have both the physio and a situation that normally angers you. So so they're asking us if we got rid of the physio aspect but kept the mental aspect, what would happen? So you're not going to feel an intense emotion physiologically. So you're going to feel calm physiologically, but you're still in a situation that would anger you. So you're still going to have a negative assessment of the situation.
Yeah, but I thought they were saying that you need both. Like
Uh-huh.
it's, like it's you just if you don't have both, then there's gonna be nothing, like that's what I thought they were
Yeah.
saying.
So we kind of look back at this. So we have the two components, measurable physiological events, and a belief or thought about some person's situation, real or imagined, right? And so um, for the
It requires two components.
uh-huh.
Requires.
Mhm. Yeah. Now the the component part is where they're talking about the okay, so here we go. In this paragraph. So if you have let's see, sorry, physiological changes chemically induced, and you're in the same state you were in at the meeting after a colleague spoke to you sarcastically. Are you angry? No, you're uneasy, restless. Like that's if you just have the physiological aspect, right? Unless there's something like your object of anger, right? So this is just saying that if you had the object of anger, but the physiological effects are not chemically induced, they're suppressed, then you're not gonna feel the emotion, but you are gonna have a negative mental uh like response to that situation, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
two components, right? And so they may not have the physiological effect of the anger, but they would still think it's negative because they're in an environment where, the people that they're working with are are logically gonna make them angry, right?
Okay. I understood this one. This is like the easiest one. Motion to reason. I mean, um, implicit in the argument that emotions are not equivalent to feelings is the idea that emotion concerns a specific object situation, is general only if chemically only. Um, so I'm gonna remove D.
Yeah.
Now they don't talk about creating art. I mean they talk about art, but is genuine only if chemically induced. Only if chemically induced. Like I don't know. I don't like only. And they don't talk about it being genuine.
What are they asking us here?
That emotions, they're not exactly the same thing as feelings. Like it's second paragraph, kind of.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I would put C.
Um, what it so uh okay. So what do they say? So you said emotions versus feelings,
Yeah.
and the passage, what did we say about that?
Um, what do you mean?
So in the passage, what did they say about feelings and emotions? How are they different?
Well, it was right here.
Yeah. So what are they saying?
Emotions are not simply bodily sensations. Also, um,
So if emotions are not just bodily sensations, what it couldn't be C then, right?
true.
And in the paragraph two, they tell you that these sensations, the physiological ones, are feelings, right? So, and then here they say that emotions are not just those feelings, but they also include something else, right?
Um, okay. So,
So if feelings are the physiological effect,
mhm,
and emotions are not just the physiological event, they're physiological plus have that object of anger, right?
okay. So A.
Yep.
Okay. Should I should do cars this week, right? Like, I don't want to kill my confidence, but
Yeah. What are
it's, I think I should do it. I think, because there's a reason I want to go over with you, do two passages with you today.
Mhm.
At this point, I've taken 23 practice exams. You, I can't be told no for an answer, So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to still put in the work even the week of the exam for cars.
Mhm.
I'm just scared that
Yeah.
I just really don't want it to also screw my confidence if I like don't do well on the passages. So it's like I'm walking along like a tight rope, but I'm leaning towards doing it.
Hmm. Um, yeah. So yeah, I guess I'll try to think about like what to do best for that. Um, and also I'll have to ask you like how when you did your review, like I mean I don't I'm not gonna like tell you to like write the main idea and stuff, but I want to see if that had an effect on your um way that you answered it because at least for this question, like this passage so far, most of what we just answered was pretty much from this main idea. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll try to think of like how to get that to work with you like under your like time constraints and stuff. Um, but in general, I think if we didn't have the main idea, like we're it's probably like I don't know how we're gonna like really do well. Um, and so yeah, I'll have to think about like what to do, like what would be best for you to do there. Um, because I also see that you kind of like when you're answering questions, like you're kind of you don't know what you're going into. You kind of
Hmm.
just look around and you kind of like eliminate stuff.
Hmm.
So um so yeah. We get like the second cars pass that we do, like we can have you try out uh doing more of like the thing where you like pay more attention at least to the first part of the paragraph
Hmm.
to understand that because like you want to come out of the passage being able to like explain it in a very very simple way and I think you're having this constant kind of battle with time and it's like if you like spend if you spend the time to like do the main idea like I'm guessing that your accuracy goes up. But if you're and that's why I was asking for you, like for the passages that you wrote the maps for, were they largely like correct, like in terms of the questions? And is it just that it took the time from the other ones at the end, and those were the ones that you got wrong? Or is it like, an even distribution where the map is not helping at all? That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
know
I
about.
mean, I got literally three wrong on this passage. Then I got this fully right, and then the other two passages, I got three wrong on each one.
Mhm.
So on the last four passages,
Uh-huh.
one I got perfect. The other three, I got three wrong on each.
Yeah. So
So
the passages where you wrote a map, were you having a higher accuracy?
the I don't know what you mean by map though, because I
Oh,
didn't. I
sorry.
just
I meant the main idea.
I wrote a main idea for every single passage.
Yeah. So so I guess I'm just asking like when you wrote the main idea for the passages, um, did that make your accuracy go up? And was it the overall lower score because that made you kind of run out of time towards the end? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Whatever. Okay. So the passage argument implies that socially responsible drama.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So when I was doing this, I didn't know what they meant by socially responsible drama, but um, like socially responsible drama.
Look,
Um,
it's gonna come right back to our main idea, like
yeah.
mostly all of these questions. So, Um, so what was the main idea?
Uh, art and thoughts are related, apart from when like art makes you defective thoughts, whatever.
Oh, okay. So now you have something to look for. Okay. So we're going to look for what?
Defective thought, maybe. Does not generate negative attitudes and feelings. I mean, maybe attitudes are kind of thoughts, but like, uses people's feelings to stimulate their thought. I mean, it mentions thought. It doesn't say defective or not, but talks about. Didn't they say emotion and feelings are like different? So, um, evokes people's culture-specific emotions. Doesn't talk about culture-specific, so I would cross that out.
Yeah.
Purges people of unhealthy emotions. I mean, I feel like that's extrapolating a little too far.
Yeah.
Does not generate negative attitudes and feelings. So it's basically saying that, yeah, does not generate negative attitudes and feelings. Um, yeah, I mean, they don't like they the example they give is about anger. So like earlier on, they talk about anger and how emotion and the outside thing can be anger, but like later on they also say that can be defective thought.
Hmm.
So it's just tough because yeah,
So
I'm gonna lean with B.
yeah, because A says that so we know that it's bad if so yeah, we know the defective thoughts are bad, but that also means that it's the uh feelings that are being taken or exploited to stimulate that defective like thinking uh whereas so meaning like feelings lead to thinking and A says that the drama can not generate attitudes and feelings, but we want to think of the feelings part as the cause rather than the effect.
Mhm.
So if it was something that used people's feelings to stimulate their thought, then that would be socially responsible.
Yeah.
Mhm. So far, I guess just I would say rephrase the question, try to think of an answer, and then you have something that you're looking for.
Mhm.
So for the next passage, we'll have you do the same thing, but when you kind of like tell me about the paragraph, start more so from the beginning of the paragraph, because usually that's where the new argument will be. So
So,
just
give me 1 second.
yep. Right, back.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough to find like a middle a middle ground, right? Because like, you know, yeah. So I'm gonna see like what I can think or figure out based on like I guess this passage. But um yeah.
All right, let's do it. The
Mhm.
highlight of the New York cultural season of 1882 was a visit from 62-year-old English philosopher Herbert Spencer. Nowhere did Spencer have a larger following than in the United States, where his works were celebrated as powerful justifications for laissez-faire capitalism. Um, okay, so yeah, I mean, it's talking about the Herbert Spencer. He was popular in the U.S. and wrote about like the whole laissez-faire capitalism thing. Um, Competition was preordained. Its result was progress, and institutions that stood in the way of individual liberties violated the natural order. Um, I mean, yeah, thanks to Spencer, Victorian capitalists knew that nature was on their side. I mean, I know laissez-faire. I mean, this is like you can't really do pre stuff outside of text, but like it's like hands off. So I guess it's like it's yeah, it's in the way of individual liberty. So like institutions they're violating natural order because laissez-faire capitalism is like no one should be, messing what you're doing. So hands off. Thanks to Spencer, Victorian capitalists knew that nature was on their side. Um, this was I couldn't fully grasp this. I mean, the rest of the passage is like about nature and like um stuff like that, but like Darwinism. But it's like a little tough for me. I mean, I guess we'll get to it, but in terms of this first paragraph, Herbert Spencer, um, um, like Victorian capitalists liked Herbert Spencer, and I don't really know because I can't fully grasp what nature being on the side means.
All right. So check it out, right? So first sentence, not a new idea, but whatever, or he's popular. I guess that's whatever. And then they said that he's particularly popular in the US, right? And then it says about his works. Now, I think you saw the laissez-faire part, sure, but you're unsure about the nature part. But check it out. His works were celebrated as powerful justifications for laissez-faire capitalism. So his works not just like do laissez-faire capitalism, his works are justifications for laissez-faire capitalism, right? And what are his justifications for laissez-faire capitalism? That competition was preordained, right? Its result was progress, and institutions that stood in the way of individual liberties violated the natural order. So Spencer, I would write Spencer, uh, most famous in US, because he argued that laissez-faire capitalism is like the natural order, right? So basically what you wrote, but the only difference is that what his writings were rational or justifications for laissez-faire
Uh,
by saying it's nature. Okay.
Spencer detested public speaking, and he no longer needed money, thanks to the immense popularity of his books. Okay. A lifelong hypochondriac who suffered a nervous breakdown in 1856. He came. he had come to the US to reinvigorate his greatly disordered nervous system, and he withstood all inducements to what he called social excitement. But the press of distinguished American Spencerians was irresistible, and he agreed to attend a banquet at a prominent New York restaurant. So he didn't like public speaking. Um, Hypochondriac. Yes, he was conscious about his health, I guess, and reinvigorating his disordered nervous system. Well, I wasn't fully sure what that meant, but I guess like he wanted something new, or I don't even know what that means, but uh, he was like he was trying his best to refrain from like of what he called social excitement, but it was just way too irresistible. Like all these people that loved him, and he was like, okay, like screw it, I'll come to this banquet.
Perfect. Do it like that.
Okay. Um, I mean, so paragraph summary is
Oh, you already did it.
yeah, okay.
Did that perfectly. And you started from the beginning. So,
Yeah, I was keeping that in mind. Um, but what does that exactly mean? Reinvigorate his greatly disordered nervous system?
so I guess this guy has like hyper anxiety and he like I guess came to the US to I guess be alone and not to have all these things, stress him out. But the people, his fans, you know, his fans wanted to see him and stuff. And so he's like, yeah, I'll come by, even though I have major anxiety. You guys like me and I'll come by. Something like that.
Okay. Senators, captains, ministry, and professors were there in force. Okay, there was a lot of them. Secretary of State called Spencer the smartest man in the world. An army general declared that there would have been no civil war if the South studied Spencer's principles. And the president of Columbia University announced that Spencer was the most powerful intellect of all time. So, okay, it's just talking about his fans.
Yep. And
And,
uh also I actually haven't said this before, but since our main idea is defined as something in more than one paragraph, you can kind of see already that this is at least going to be part of it, right? That people like him, especially like
mhm,
Americans like him, like love him, think he's like
yeah.
that person in the like there's no wars if this guy is crazy. All right, yeah.
Instead of graciously accepting these tributes, Spencer told his admirers that they had seriously misunderstood him. So, new idea. He did not approve of the culture of American capitalism, although he admired its material achievements. S- Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. There isn't that much analysis here, but like, they had misunderstood him, and he didn't actually approve of like the capitalists. So
Yeah, and that's
that's
kind of like a messes with us, right?
wait, what'd you say?
Oh, so that kind of like messes with us, right? Like,
Yes, yes.
so, but yeah, it happens.
Um, yeah, because he originally didn't justify capitalism, but okay, although he admired its material achievements, he felt that for Americans, work was a pathological obsession that endangered mental and physical health. He said it was time to preach the gospel of relaxation. So, just gotta relax more. Having administered that slap to the face of national virtue, Spencer returned to England. Okay, so that's kind of abrupt. I mean, he just denied all of them. That like not denied, but saying he didn't approve of what their capitalist tendencies and you guys gotta relax and he just left.
Yeah. Now, uh, so in paragraph one, I kind of like took another look there and I saw that it wasn't necessarily him saying this is my like I wrote this. It's a justification of laissez-faire capitalism, but it says his works in the U.S. his works were celebrated as powerful justifications for laissez-faire capitalism, right?
Mhm.
Uh, which it's a nuance, but it's saying that that's what people used his books for, but it may not be what he wrote them for.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it now that we've read this paragraph where he's like, you guys are obsessed,
Mhm.
So relax. Okay, cool.
Spencer was well known as an evolutionist long before Darwin on the Origin of Species was published. But while Darwin resisted applying the idea to morals, society, or politics, Spencer, saw evolution working everywhere. Um, okay, so yeah, Spencer is saying evolution is like ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Darwin is not, he didn't apply this to like
Uh-huh.
other things. Um,
When you say everywhere, like tell me a little bit with me. Um,
like including, like he
uh-huh.
saw evolution including in, I guess, like politics,
Yep. So
society, morals.
yep. So that's I mean, it's like a way to describe social Darwinism, but don't, oh, they actually use that word later,
Yep.
but I was going to say that that's what that means, but they didn't say it. So I was going to say, don't say it, but they eventually say it. So yeah, cool.
They have been tied to social Darwinism, but it's more correct to think of Darwin as a biological Spencerian.
This guy
Okay.
loves this dude.
People with limited interest in the finches of the Galapagos had great interest in whether the state should provide for the poor or whether it was right to colonize India. Um, okay. So, yeah, I mean, the author is saying that Spencer was applying evolution to like society, and he says he kind of provides an example, I guess, of like people that they were somewhat interested in the finches, but they had even greater interest in, the state providing for the poor and stuff. And that's like kind of talking about how social Darwinism, like there's more interest in that than even the original like evolution example or like discussion.
Yep. So it seems like that his writing on social Darwinism could have been appropriated as justifications for capitalism in the US, and he like disagreed with that. Okay.
Spencer asserted that ill-advised social institutions could do almost nothing to assist evolution and hence make things better. Okay. Governments had no obligation or even right to compel vaccination or education, keep small children from sweeping chimneys, mandate the construction of sewers, or relieve poverty. So basically, like the institutions, there's not much they can do because evolution is going to prevail, basically.
Yeah.
Um, Individual charity might refine the character of the donor, but relief from the state while endangering irresponsibility in recipients embittered those whose resources funded it. So charity can help refine the character, I guess, like change the character of the person who donates, but relief from the state, well, then is he the author saying that like it'll change character of the donor, but it could also make like the person who receives charity, that person might be bitter.
Let's see. So yeah, he's like, all right, you know what? We can't do anything about it. Like, the government shouldn't have any obligation or right to even help these people. And individual charity might make the individual who's donating the money, uh, become virtuous. But if people are getting like money not from like a single donor, but from like the government, uh, that's pretty bad, and it's going to piss off the people who paid for it. So, so yeah, it's
Repeat that, please. Sorry, I got a little lost.
sure, sure, sure. So, okay, so here he's saying um, that government institutions can't do anything, and don't have the right or need to really do anything to help, people who are poor or, doing all sorts of things like children sweeping chimneys and stuff. He's like against helping those people using, the government. Like if it's a single person who donates to charity, that might make that single person feel more virtuous. But if the donation is coming from the state, it's gonna piss off the people who like pay taxes for that like welfare kind of thing. It's kind of like how today people might be pissed off at paying like Social Security if, they don't receive benefits from it or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. The ultimate result of shielding individuals from the effects of folly, he said, is to fill the world with fools. Ultimate. Okay. Don't really know what that means. Ultimate result of shielding individuals from the effects of foolishness is to fill the world with fools, basically. Foolish, like, result of shielding individuals from effects of foolishness is to fill the world with fools. Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah. So this is a good example of like, all right, it's a sentence that doesn't make sense, and then we read it one more time, doesn't make sense. Like after you like read it, reread it, twice, like, and it still doesn't make sense, just move on. Yeah.
correct. However, okay, wait, but to like summarize this paragraph, I guess, like, yeah, they're saying that governments shouldn't provide, you know, resources to people.
Yep. Yeah.
However, watching Spencer derive concrete social policies from his theory of evolution, however, contrast word, it's like trying to deduce whether to send the kids to private school from a theory of justice. Um, the sledgehammer cracks the nut, but it makes a mess. I mean, like, okay, like I don't even know, like,
Mhm.
I guess what he's saying maybe is that like there isn't really a correlation. Like you're trying to decide to send your kids to school and you're referring to a theory of justice, but that's like you're referring to something completely different. That's my crack at it, pun intended.
Yeah, I don't know what they mean about the theory of justice part, but I guess they're using that as an analogy for um, taking evolution to and deriving social policies from evolution. Like it's a blunt instrument, I guess. It can, yeah, make it messy or whatever. But yeah.
Okay, Spencer's autobiography devolved on his poor nervous health and on lessons supposedly learned from it. Among them, some scientific arguments in favor of amusement. Okay, in favor of amusement. But gaiety did not come easily to him. I don't know what that word actually means. Like I just forgot definition. And he urged relaxation not as a spontaneous act, but as a judicious and theoretically justified discipline. So earlier they actually mentioned really relaxation.
Mhm.
Um, He urged relaxation not as a spontaneous act, but as a judicious and theoretically justified discipline.
Mhm.
I mean, it's attached to a lot of different things. I will say they mention evolution a lot. They mention relaxation here and also before.
So
So I'm
in this last paragraph, he says that like after his poor like nervous health and stuff, that he's in favor of amusement, which means like, like fun or something like that. So gaiety is like the word gay in the context of happy or whatever.
Mhm. Okay.
So yeah, he might be arguing in favor of, amusement, but it didn't come easy to him. It wasn't easy for him to feel that way. And that he urged relaxation, not as like this spontaneous kind of natural thing that you do, like to feel better, but as like this discipline. That's kind of what he was saying earlier in that preach the gospel of
Yeah.
relaxation. Like if you're preaching, it's like it's an organized, thing, like a discipline,
Hmm.
right? Okay. So what can we say about this passage?
Herbert equals evolution, basically. Um, plus relaxation, non-spontaneous relaxation.
I'm gonna write Spencer applied social Darwinism as justification for capitalism, but by others, meaning other people are taking his ideas of social Darwinism and applying it to capitalism, even though Spencer himself doesn't completely agree and he's like, you guys need to chill out, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Passage context implies that Spencer's strong following in the U.S. during the 19th century was attributable in part to the country's okay. One, relatively substantial number of affluent residents. Number two, relatively strong sense of responsibility. Number three, relatively strong grounding in Darwinist theories. So, two, okay. I know that Jack West and Strat is like to rank these. Um, so like
What are we asked? What are we being asked?
the his fans basically. Like what his fa like what about them? Like the country's whatever. Um the characteristics of the his fans
Uh
was
okay.
due to like
Yeah.
what kind of his following.
Basically like why or Spencer's really, really popular in the US because of US's blank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um I'm not gonna lie, like I can't answer this without looking to the passage.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Um so here's the thing, like where I wasn't sure about this is They say Victorian capitalist nature's on their side, but does that mean they had strong grounding in Darwinist theories? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's fair enough to assume that.
Um,
And same with senators, captains of ministry, professors were there. Like ca- I can't I don't feel like I can't just assume they're affluent.
okay.
So it's just it's tough. Like I don't know when I can make that logical leap and when I can't in cards. Because like they
Mhm.
didn't really tell us outright. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Victorian capitalists, they're rich,
Okay.
but like I don't know if I can assume that they're like I can't, and do you know what I mean? Like because it goes back to, outside using outside knowledge versus not. Um,
Okay. So
so yeah.
go on.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I can't tell you. I feel like all of these are wrong.
So yeah, so okay. They're asking us, okay, what could be a reason that this dude was so popular in the US, right? And we know in the US he had a really large following because his works were celebrated as justifications for laissez-faire capitalism. And that meant, you need to have competition. Um, and elsewhere, he speaks against things like vaccination, education, relieving poverty, etc., right?
Yeah.
So if he's saying like F the poor people
Mhm.
and they're saying that he was super popular in the US, maybe that can tell us something about his, something about the US that made him so popular there.
I guess, yeah. I mean, then yeah, in that case it'd be one, but I just like I don't know when I can make these leaps.
Well, so it says implies, so we're not going to have it explicitly stated for us, right?
Mhm. Okay.
We are going to have to make a bit of a leap here. Um, yeah.
So I would think that I mean it would be one. The social responsibility part, I mean I know that's like referring to the charity.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll pick that too.
Tell me why?
I mean it says individual charity refines a character. He just doesn't like the fact that it's the government.
Uh, sure. Um, so so I don't think it would be easy for us to have a country that has a substantial amount of affluent residents who agree with Spencer's laissez-faire capitalism of not helping out the poor. So I don't think one and two um are going to they're not like consistent with one another, right? So like yeah. So like I know you're looking at what's explicitly stated, but we are being asked what's implied, which means not explicitly stated. So if he's saying so he's against uh helping people like from the state, right? Like so it wouldn't make sense for his like if he's popular in the US because he's against, welfare and stuff, it wouldn't make sense for him to be popular because of the country's strong sense of that social responsibility, right?
True.
Okay.
Yeah, so 1 and 3.
Well, why three?
I mean, they said Spencer was well known as an evolutionist long before Darwin's whatever was published. Um, well then I guess maybe it won't be 3 because it says grounding.
Well, again, we're trying to answer the question of why he's so popular in the US, right?
Mhm.
So, like, is that one of the reasons he's popular in the US? Because US has a lot of knowledge about Darwin's theories.
I mean, they speak about nature, but like, I guess that would be a logical leap. Um,
They talk about nature, sure, right? But do they talk about the US having this? Because nature can mean anything, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the
God, I hate cars.
you want to think about it like this, right? So they're asked first of all, they're asking us, okay, Spencer is popular in the US because the US had blank. So if Spencer's views are screw the poor people, right? It wouldn't be like the US wouldn't have a strong sense of social responsibility because that goes against Spencer, right?
Yeah, sure.
And the US wouldn't be strong in Darwinian theories, like because that's not the reason that they're saying he was popular in the US, right? He does say that there's nature involved, but it doesn't mean that the US is already, grounded in Darwinist theories.
Mhm.
And he also said this was, even before, Darwin's theories or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, the only one that could work then would be one, right?
sure.
So I guess he chose the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What could be interpreted as paradoxical as a paradoxical aspect of Spencer's behavior was his. Um, okay. So obvious affluence despite an explicit disdain for wealth. I remember when I was doing this, I thought they were like all right. Like I was like, how can I remove any of these? Fervent belief in capitalism despite evolutionary evidence against its merits. Parents' sense of inferiority. Okay. What was paradoxical?
Mhm.
Like he was educating the rich, kind of like the rich kind of took his thing. Uh, and he was rich himself, and he didn't need the money because of like immense popularity of his books. And he was like telling the rich were basically looking at what he wrote and they were applying it to capitalism and stuff. But he was like, actually, um, evolution is gonna do its thing.
Maybe there's something else instead of like the evolution stuff, like something that may not be like something that uh would be in our main idea. Maybe something else though. Something else that's a paradox.
Um, he's saying like maybe something relaxing.
Okay.
Um, like that.
So there could be another thing, and it'll be like perhaps in paragraph two.
Relax, but like but also don't relax and think about your health every second.
Well,
Like, I don't know.
I don't know. It says relax. I don't think it says relax in that paragraph, but what are they saying in that paragraph?
That he's a hypochondriac, but also that he's rich.
Uh, I don't know if we know that he's rich. We know that I guess he didn't need money, but like, so what's the so look for a paradox in there
Okay.
and start from the beginning.
Spencer decides to public speaking and he no longer needed money thanks to the immense popularity of his books. A lifelong hypochondriac who suffered a nervous breakdown.
Uh-huh.
So he withstood everything he called social excitement, but then he went to the banquet.
So so uh so this guy is really, really anxious, right?
Hmm.
Especially about public speaking.
Hmm.
Yet he went to that banquet.
Hmm.
Paradoxical, right?
Hmm.
And we kind of like when we were talking about it as you were reading it, you kind of mentioned that too. You're like, yeah, even though he's super anxious about these, public speaking and stuff, like he's still going to their banquet.
Okay, but like, how can you cross out the rest of these? Obvious affluence. Okay, we weren't told that explicitly, so that's A is out. Fervent belief in capitalism despite evolutionary. Okay, so he didn't actually believe in capitalism. They just took it. They took what he wrote and applied it to capitalism. C, parent sense of inferiority.
Oh, and then the second part of this is not presented in the passage, right? Because the evolutionary evidence was like for its merits. And also we didn't have an explicit disdain for wealth either. Um, but yeah, continue.
Apparent sense of inferiority despite glowing praise from his followers. Not really. I mean, he just had hypochondriac, but that's different. And
What part of C is
the
wrong?
first half is wrong.
Yeah, we never said anything about his apparent sense of inferiority.
Okay, so it's B.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, I put B.
So, yeah. So again, we have something that we're looking for. That is
Okay, but like, how did I know that I had to look to specifically paragraph two? Like, I guess I just had to remember that.
I don't know. So if we're looking, so we're being asked about what's paradoxical, right?
Yeah.
And when we were reading it for the first time, you mentioned in for paragraph two, like that he wasn't really in the mood to go to the banquet or whatever, but he ended up going anyway. So yeah, so either that when you read it the first time would make you think like, hey, this guy's like not really for this, but he's still doing it. Um, that could be something that you remember, but if you didn't remember it that way and you then look back at the passage, or if you look at these other choices, you can kind of do it that way. Like we don't know if he's super affluent. We know that he's no longer needs money, so that maybe could be similar to affluence, but we never uh said that he hated wealth. Um, and you never said that he that evolutionary evidence goes against capitalism, and he never indicated he had any sense of inferiority. So yeah, you can kind of go that way too. Um, but yeah.
Passage suggests that the national virtue Spencer had assaulted during his banquet speech was U.S. residence tendency. Okay. Yeah, it was something about them working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So answer is B. I remember it. But like it makes sense. I mean, this is like a little more straightforward. I remember this. I got it right. I think.
Got it.
That would be very embarrassing if I didn't. Uh yeah, I mean like this I feel like this paragraph it was like more digestible. Because yeah, it was like I mean it was right here. Like Americans pathological obsession, work was a pathological obsession.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
crazy how like they reword things such like in such a crazy way.
Yep.
Like devote large amounts of time pursuing a livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're trying so hard for just like for you to not pick that answer. But okay. Uh for which of the following questions does the passage fail to provide any information about Spencer's likely response? Yeah, okay, this was tough. Okay. If Spencer's audience believed him to be a staunch advocate of capitalist culture, do they fully grasp his ideas?
What are we being asked?
I mean, like these questions did the passage answer them? Like for which of these basically did it? I mean, did it not answer?
What is it answer? You mean,
Like provide evidence for?
yeah. So like stuff that I would highlight in orange, you know.
Mhm. If the government doesn't build sewer systems, who should build them? Um, if a country has many affluent people, why shouldn't they help the less affluent ones? Country has many affluent people, why shouldn't they help the less affluent ones? People want to be wealthy, why shouldn't they work tirelessly until they achieve wealth? Okay, I will cross out D.
Okay.
He preaches relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, I mean, he was against working tirelessly, basically.
Okay.
He wants us to relax. So I would cross out D. If Spencer audience believe him to be a staunch advocate of capitalist culture, did they fully grasp his ideas? So he said they didn't fully grasp his ideas.
Yeah.
He said they misunderstood him. So I would take A out.
Mm-hmm.
If the government doesn't build sewer systems, who should build them? I mean, yeah, he talks about charity, but he doesn't specifically talk about sewer systems. So, um, if a country has many affluent people, why shouldn't they help the less affluent ones? So I'm leaning towards B here.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough. Like I can't really explain why I would knock C out, but country has many affluent. Like I know they talk about it, but I can't like t tell you why exactly I would remove C.
So
Um,
in this paragraph
'Cause
here, yeah.
hmm? I guess maybe because like they're gonna be pissed off. Like the affluent people are gonna be pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Is
Okay, but I would in timing conditions, I did not understand the whole endangering irresponsibility and recipients embittered those whose what I thought that meant is that the donors are like feel like strong, but the people who receive the funds from the donors are bitter. That's what I thought it actually meant, but obviously not.
it says uh embittered those whose resources funded it.
I know, but that's when I was like reading through it, that's what I thought it
Hmm.
meant.
Yeah, got
And
it.
there's a question about that too coming up.
Mhm.
But wait, so you yeah, it's B, right? Because he just talks about governance.
Yeah, because they give us evidence for C by saying that it's going to piss off the people who funded it, right? But we don't have any evidence for like, yeah, the sewer systems.
Passage context suggests that when Spencer came to the US in 1882, he probably planned two. Okay, I mean, you alluded to this, and it makes sense after reading it a second time. This is like easier question, but yeah, I mean, he came to the US because he wanted to be alone, and he was like, he suffered that nervous breakdown. He wanted to reinvigorate himself. So A, write a book about his experiences. There's no book that they spoke about. Like, no. Introduce modifications to his theory.
But they said that they liked his books.
Yeah, but that's about his books that were applying, like,
Hmm.
that they apply to capitalism. Like, it didn't say explicitly that he came to the US to write a book.
Yeah.
Uh, introduce modifications to his theory. They they just said he wanted to reinvigorate himself. So not B. C, I mean, that would probably be the answer. I think. D, leave again within a short time. So, okay. Hmm. Leave again within a short time. I mean, he like left to England after slapping them in the face, but hmm. Okay, so I'm leaning towards C.
Yeah, right. Because when he came to uh reinvigorate his messed up nervous system,
Mhm.
right? And that means that he wanted to be alone, but he went to the banquet because did it for his fans.
Yeah. Okay. According to Spencer's views, if a wealthy person gives money to the poor, which outcome is to be expected for the giver? Okay. Answer is A, because this one,
I described it
yeah.
with a virtue.
Mm-hmm. And I'm
Uh,
pretty sure this one actually came to me pretty quick when I was doing the exam.
okay.
Because I remembered the refining the character of the donor. So
Mm-hmm.
hey, at least one out of the 53 questions, It's suppose it is true that the expression survival of the fittest was originally coined by Spencer and later adopted by Darwin. Okay. So yeah, I mean the author just is in love with Spencer. So yeah, this probably has to do something with that. Is this fact relevant to any of the ideas in the passage? A, no, it has no relevance because the expression is not mentioned in the passage. Well, like, I guess, but the thing is, the author really liked Spencer. Um, I mean, technically it was never mentioned. I'll just keep A, but B, yes, it weakens the claim that Darwin restricted his theory to the biological domain. Uh, I'm gonna probably remove B. See, it supports the characterization of Darwin as a biological Spencerian. I think I would keep that. I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to about the fact that this guy loves Spencer, and that Spencer was, yeah, a biological Spencerian, basically. Yeah, D, yes, it supports university presence. Okay, okay. That's like a whole different thing. Um, I would lean towards C. I would pick C, actually, pretty comfortably.
Huh. Yeah, because either you have Darwinism, which is biological, and Spencer can apply it to society to make it social Darwinism, or if it originally came from Spencer, instead of Spencer being a social Darwinist, Darwin is a biological Spencerian.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for that's it for today.
Yeah. So, okay, takeaways. When you're trying to figure out like what a paragraph is saying, start from the top. That's usually when they, introduce a new idea. Again, it's not always going to be like that, but way better to go like from top to bottom rather than from bottom to top. And when it comes to your um answering the questions, want to make sure that you understand what it's asking us before you kind of like go right into the choices. And again, I always know time is always an issue, but we want to find some type of middle ground between, you not running out of time, but you also understanding not just the passage, but understanding the questions and coming up with your own answers if you could. Like, I'm not going to say on the test, not look at the answers for like 20 seconds. I'm not going to say that. But in what we've been doing today with these two course passages,
Hmm.
whenever I blocked out the choices, you were able to kind of give me an answer that greatly assisted in us with
Yeah.
that answer because otherwise you're going to be very like if you don't know if you can't think of an answer, it makes you very susceptible to any of the answer choices in the question. uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I would say to yeah, start from the top for each of the paragraphs, and then paragraphs that are or ideas that are in more than one paragraph constitute your main idea. When it comes to reading the question, make sure you rephrase the question to understand what it's asking. Try to come up with your own answer, uh, or try to like look for, have an idea of what to look for. Oh, and then when we have weaker questions, try to take your main idea, or if you don't have that main idea, some argument and flip it and then look for what agrees with that. That could be an easier way to do the weakener questions. And then also, for so like for this thing right here, over wait, oh, this one, like this is like the most common like wrong reason for people to eliminate stuff, like when they say it wasn't mentioned in the passage. So pay attention to like how question stems will be like what's asking about what's implied, because it's not going to be like something that's explicitly stated in the passage. So yeah, starting from the top for paragraphs, having some idea of what to look for in the answers, making sure you understand what the question's asking, and for weakener questions, you could try flipping the main idea and looking for the answer there. And and yeah, I guess like, and then it comes down to, I guess, like question types. So if we find any more patterns in the types of questions, that can help as well. And like the cars document that I have, um, can help you with specific types of like question types.
Okay.
Hmm. Yep. And yeah, try to like brainwash yourself into thinking it's like interesting or whatever. I know
Yeah.
it's like God, like I can't wait till this is over type of deal. but I think that you can really bring your um what is it? Oops. Um yeah, I forgot what I was just gonna say, but what was the last thing I just said?
Bring your I don't know. What the question is, do I do practice? Because I think I should maybe try applying some of this stuff as well. But
Oh, I see, I see. So, okay. Um, so you're thinking of like what, doing like a couple of course passages like a day or something?
yeah, I mean, I was gonna do blind review on some of these other passages.
Yeah, do that, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, do that. And try the things that we talked about. Um, yeah.
Okay, but after that, I mean, like on Tuesday, Wednesday,
Tuesday, Wednesday, you're asking what to
what
do.
should I do with cars?
Oh, for cars? Let's see. So you'll be doing your blind review, like you'll be finishing your blind review of the that car section by tomorrow. Or
Probably. Yeah.
all right, if that's the case, then we can, when we meet tomorrow, we can go over like some like questions that you might have from your blind review,
Okay.
and then we can kind of decide what to do after that. Um, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
What was the total for today?
let's see. 163.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. I will see you tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
See you.